The dog stopped so suddenly his handler nearly stumbled over him. 1 second the mall was a hollowed shell, fluorescent lights buzzing, storefronts shuttered, dust settling like old snow, and the next the K9 sat, rigid, nose fixed on a janitor's closet no wider than a coffin. He would not move. Not for commands. Not for treats. Not for the soft hand at his collar. His breath fogged the yellow mop bucket inside, and something else, something old and wrong, seemed to breathe back. When the officers finally pried the door open, the smell hit first. Then the silence. And then, behind the stacked supplies, the reason the dog had chosen to stay. If you're drawn to stories that reward patience, linger in the quiet moments, and trust you to notice what others overlook, you'll want to stay close. The details matter here. By the time the patrol cars rolled into the parking lot, the sky over Millstone had gone the color of damp ash. The mall sat at the edge of town where the highway dipped and the pines crowded close, a low concrete hulk built during a boom that never reached this far. In the 70s it had been hope. In the 90s, habit. Now it was a rumor, open just enough to be useful, closed enough to be forgotten. Deputy Mara Ellison cut the engine and listened. The silence was thick, interrupted only by the ticking of cooling metal and the distant whine of wind pushing through broken weather stripping. She didn't like this place. She hadn't since the call came in 2 nights ago, after hours alarm tripped, motion sensors flickering like a nervous heartbeat. Tonight, the sheriff had asked for the K9 unit. Mara stepped out and pulled her jacket tighter. Her boots crunched on gravel and old receipts. She smelled stale popcorn, mildew, and something else that made the back of her throat tighten. It was a scent you didn't forget once you knew it, but she refused to name it yet. "Evening," said Officer Cal Rourke, already there, leaning against his cruiser. Cal had transferred in last year from the city, bringing with him a voice that still carried traffic and impatience. He nodded toward the mall's entrance. "Alarm company swears it's not a glitch. 3rd time this week." "Any sign of forced entry?" Mara asked. Cal shrugged. "Doors are as busted as they've been since the 80s. Cameras inside caught motion, but it's grainy. Could be raccoons." Mara raised an eyebrow. "Raccoons don't set off the silent alarm." "Tell that to the last 2 times, Cal said. "Sheriff wants it cleared. K9 sweep. In and out." From the second cruiser, a man stepped out with a leash and a dog who moved like a coiled spring. The K9 was a sable German shepherd, ears alert, eyes steady. His name patch read Archer. His handler, Officer Luke Bennett, was younger than Mara expected, mid-30s, hair already retreating, jaw set in the way of someone who had learned to keep things in. "Evening," Luke said. "Archer's ready." Mara nodded. "We'll start with the east wing. Keep it tight." The mall doors groaned open with a sound that made Cal wince. Inside, the air was colder, trapped. Their footsteps echoed off tile worn dull by decades of feet. Storefronts lined the corridor like missing teeth, frames empty, mannequins headless, a faded poster advertising a sale from 5 years ago curling at the corners. Archer's nose dipped, working. Luke kept the leash loose. The dog moved with intent, not rushing, cataloging the air. Mara watched him more than the surroundings. She trusted dogs. People, less so. They passed the old arcade, machines gutted, lights dead, and the food court, where plastic chairs were stacked like barricades. The smell intensified there, metallic and sweet. Mara swallowed. "You smell that?" Cal murmured. Luke didn't answer. Archer paused, ears swiveling, then continued. He pulled slightly toward the service corridor, the one the public rarely noticed. The janitor's route. Mara's radio crackled. "Ellison," the sheriff's voice said. "Any update?" "Still clearing," Mara replied. "No visual yet." "Copy. Be careful." They turned into the service corridor, narrower, lower ceiling. The lights flickered, some dead entirely. The walls were painted a tired beige, scuffed and peeling. Doors lined both sides, stenciled labels barely legible. Storage. Electrical. Janitor. Archer slowed. Luke felt it through the leash before he saw it. The dog's gait changed, head lowering, tail stiffening. He raised a hand. "Hold." Mara and Cal stopped. The air felt heavier here, pressed close. Archer took 3 deliberate steps, then stopped in front of a metal door marked Janitor. He sat. Luke frowned. "Search," he commanded softly. Archer did not move. Luke tried again, firmer. Archer's ears flicked back. His eyes never left the door. He let out a low, steady whine that vibrated in his chest. "That's unusual," Cal said. Luke crouched, voice gentle. "Archer, search." The dog leaned forward, nose touching the door seam, inhaled, then sat back down, bracing himself. He would not leave. Mara felt a chill creep up her spine. "What does that mean?" Luke swallowed. "It means there's something here he doesn't want to lose." Cal scoffed, too loud. "Lose?" Luke met his gaze. "Archer's trained to find. Sometimes, when he finds something alive, or something that was, he stays." Mara stepped closer to the door. The metal was dented, the handle smeared with grime. She reached for her flashlight and swept the beam across the floor. A damp stain spread beneath the door, dark against the concrete. "Luke," she said quietly. He followed her light. His jaw tightened. "That's not cleaning solution." Cal's hand went to his sidearm. "Jesus. Let's do this by the book," Mara said. Her voice sounded steadier than she felt. "Luke, leash Archer back. Cal, call it in. I want backup before we open that." Archer growled, low and warning, when Luke tugged the leash. It wasn't defiance. It was insistence. "Easy," Luke murmured, heart pounding. He felt foolish arguing with a dog, but Archer had saved lives. He trusted him more than his own instincts some days. Cal spoke into his radio, words clipped. "Sheriff, K9 indication at Janitor's closet in service corridor." "Possible," he paused, swallowing. "Possible DOA." The response crackled back, tight. "Secure the area. Don't open until CSI arrives." Mara nodded. "We wait." They stood there in the dim corridor, the flickering light buzzing overhead. Minutes stretched. Archer's breath was loud. Luke's thoughts ran in circles. He had been with Archer for 4 years, through drug busts and missing persons, through nights that left him shaking. He had never seen the dog refuse to move like this. "What's the history on this place?" Luke asked, needing to break the silence. Mara exhaled. "Mall was built when Millstone thought it would grow. It didn't. Stores closed one by one. Now it's half-leased. Dollar store. Nail salon. The rest is storage. Or nothing." "Any recent missing persons?" Cal asked. Mara hesitated. "Teenager went missing last fall. Ellie Carver. 16. Last seen at the bus stop near here." Cal glanced at the door, then away. "They searched." "They did," Mara said. "They didn't find." The backup arrived with sirens muted, a line of cruisers pulling up outside. CSI followed, faces set, kits in hand. The sheriff, Tom Harlan, a man whose hair had gone white before his time, joined them in the corridor. "What VE we got?" Harlan asked. Luke gestured to Archer. "K9 indication. Strong." Harlan looked at the door, the stain. He nodded once. "Open it." The CSI tech pried the door with a crowbar. The metal screamed. The smell surged out, undeniable now. Cal turned away, gagging. Inside, the closet was cramped, stacked with mops, buckets, boxes of industrial cleaner. The flashlight beam cut through dust motes. At first glance, it looked like nothing. Then the tech moved a bucket. Behind it, wedged against the wall, was a bundle wrapped in plastic sheeting, duct tape layered thick. A hand protruded, gray, fingers curled as if grasping for something long gone. Mara felt her knees weaken. She gripped the doorframe. "Jesus," Cal whispered. Archer whined, a sound like grief. Luke dropped to his knees beside him, burying his face in the dog's fur for a moment longer than professional, longer than appropriate. He did not care. The sheriff cleared his throat. "Bag it. Notify the coroner." CSI worked with quiet efficiency. As they peeled back the plastic, more came into view. Clothing. A sneaker with a pink stripe. A bracelet. Mara recognized it before the tech said the name. Ellie Carver, the tech murmured. Matches the missing. The corridor seemed to tilt. Mara closed her eyes. She had spoken to Ellie's mother, sat at her kitchen table, promised they would keep looking. Cal stared at the body, then at the walls. How long? The tech checked. Hard to say without full exam. Months. Months, Cal echoed. In the mall. People don't see what they don't want to, Mara said softly. They cleared the area, sealed the closet. Archer refused to leave until the body was removed. Only then did he stand, reluctantly, eyes lingering on the empty space. Outside, the night had fallen fully. The pines whispered. The mall sign flickered, one letter dead. The sheriff pulled Mara aside. This doesn't end here. No, she agreed. It starts. He nodded. I want everyone who has keys to that corridor on my desk by morning. Tenants. Maintenance. Security. Mara hesitated. Security. Harlan's gaze hardened. Especially security. Across the lot, Luke loaded Archer into the cruiser. He rested his forehead against the door for a moment, breathing. He thought of the way Archer had sat, unmoving, guarding what was left of a girl no one had found. Good boy, he whispered. From the shadows near the service entrance, a figure watched the lights and the movement. When the last cruiser pulled away, the figure stepped back, deeper into the trees, where the mall's reach did not extend. A phone vibrated. A message appeared, unsent, then deleted. Inside the janitor's closet, behind the scuffed wall, something else remained unseen. A scuff mark, deliberate. A loose panel. A secret that would not stay buried now that the dog had chosen to stay. The sun came up thin and reluctant, as if even daylight was wary of Millstone Mall. Morning found the parking lot cordoned off with yellow tape that snapped in the breeze, the words "do not cross" repeating like a reprimand no one listened to anymore. News vans arrived late, engines idling, reporters yawning into their microphones. By noon, the story would be everywhere. Missing teen found in mall closet, flattened into a headline that could not hold the weight of what had been uncovered. Inside the sheriff's office, the air smelled of burnt coffee and paper. Mara Ellison sat at her desk, hands folded, staring at a legal pad filled with names. Tenants. Maintenance. Security. Anyone with access to the service corridor. She had written some of the names herself, years ago. During routine audits she barely remembered now. She closed her eyes and saw Ellie Carver's bracelet again, the cheap silver charm dulled with time. We'll keep looking, Mara had said to the girl's mother. The lie tasted bitter now. Her phone buzzed. Ellison, she answered. You need to see this, said Sheriff Harlan. His voice was low, contained. Now. She grabbed her jacket and headed down the hall. The bullpen was unusually quiet. Deputies spoke in murmurs, eyes flicking away as she passed. She caught Luke Bennett leaning against the far wall, Archer lying at his feet. The dog's ears perked when he saw her, tail thumping once. How's he doing? She asked. Luke gave a humorless smile. Same as me. Eating. Breathing. Not much else. She nodded. There wasn't anything useful to say. Sheriff wants me. Luke straightened. I'll bring Archer. He might help. Mara hesitated. With what? Luke met her gaze. Whatever's still hidden. They followed Harlan into the evidence room. On the stainless steel table lay photographs spread in careful rows. Close-ups of the janitor's closet. The wrapped body. The scuffed wall. Mara had barely registered in the chaos. CSI went back this morning, Harlan said. They noticed something. He tapped a photo. The flashlight beam highlighted a faint line in the wall behind where the body had been wedged. A seam. False panel. Mara asked. Looks like it, Harlan said. Maintenance schematics don't show it. Luke frowned. Then who put it there? Someone who wanted it, Harlan said. And who had time? He slid another photo forward. It showed the panel removed. Behind it, a cavity no wider than a locker. Inside, objects. A folded sweatshirt. A spiral notebook. A cracked phone. Mara's breath caught. Personal effects. Ellie's. Luke asked. Some of them, Harlan said. Others aren't. Silence settled. Archer lifted his head, sensing the shift. "We found IDs," Harlan continued. "2 more. One from a woman who went missing 3 years ago. One from a drifter reported gone out of the next county." Mara felt the room tilt again. "So this wasn't a one-off?" Harlan finished. "No." Luke ran a hand through his hair. "Then whoever did this had access, privacy, and patience, and knew them all," Mara said. Her eyes dropped to the list in her pocket. Names blurred together. Security logs. "Spotty," Harlan said. "The mall security company rotates guards. Minimal oversight. But one name comes up a lot." He slid a folder across the table. The name on the tab made Mara's stomach clench. "Evan Pike. He's been with the mall since before it declined," Harlan said. "Started as a night guard. Now he's head of security. Lives local." Mara closed her eyes briefly. Evan Pike had testified in court with her once, years ago, on a burglary case. He'd seemed reliable, quiet, helpful. "When was he last on duty?" she asked. "Night Ellie disappeared," Harlan said. "And several nights after. He logged patrols near the service corridor." Luke exchanged a glance with Mara. "Where is he now?" Harlan's jaw tightened. "That's the problem. He called in sick this morning. Phone goes to voicemail." Mara straightened. "We need to talk to him." "We will," Harlan said. "But carefully. He's armed. And if he's been using the mall as a—" He stopped, the word sticking. "We can't spook him." Luke looked down at Archer. "You want us to pay him a visit?" "Yes," Harlan said. "But not yet. I want eyes on his house first." "Quietly." Mara nodded. "I'll take it." Evan Pike's house sat at the edge of town, where the road thinned and the fields stretched wide. It was a modest ranch with peeling paint, a flag drooping from the porch. Mara parked down the road and cut the engine. Luke and Archer were with her, the cruiser unmarked. They watched for an hour. Nothing moved. No lights. No car in the driveway. "He could be inside," Luke said. "Or gone," Mara replied. Archer whined softly, nose working even from the back seat. Mara made a decision. "We knock." Luke hesitated. "Sheriff said." "I know what he said," Mara cut in. "But if Pike's in there, and if he's a flight risk, waiting won't help." Luke nodded reluctantly. He trusted Mara. Everyone did. They approached the house, footsteps soft on gravel. The porch creaked under their weight. Mara knocked, firm. No answer. She tried again. "Evan Pike." "Sheriff's office." Silence. Luke leaned closer to Archer. "Search," he murmured. The dog pulled toward the door, tail stiff. Mara reached for the handle. It turned. The door swung open. Inside, the air was stale, layered with old coffee and something acrid. The living room was neat to the point of obsession. No clutter. No photographs. A couch positioned precisely parallel to the wall. "Evan!" Mara called. They moved through the house room by room. Bedroom untouched. Bathroom clean. The kitchen held a single mug in the sink, a ring of dried coffee at the bottom. Luke's gaze snagged on the back door. "Mara." She followed his line of sight. The door stood ajar. Beyond it, the yard sloped down toward the woods. Archer strained toward it, a low sound in his throat. They stepped outside. The grass was trampled in one spot, as if something heavy had been dragged. "Tracks?" Luke asked. Mara crouched. The soil was soft from last night's rain. She saw boot prints leading into the trees. "He left in a hurry," she said. They followed the tracks a short distance before Mara stopped. "No. We call this in. Now." Luke nodded, already reaching for his radio. As they waited for backup, Mara scanned the woods. Her mind raced. If Pike had fled, he knew the area. He knew police procedure. And he had been hiding bodies for years without anyone noticing. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. "You should have left it buried." Mara's blood ran cold. She showed Luke. "That's him," Luke said quietly. Before Mara could respond, a sound cracked through the trees. A gunshot. Dirt kicked up near her feet. Down! Luke shouted, pushing her aside. They dove behind a fallen log. Archer barked, furious. Another shot rang out, closer. Sheriff's office. Mara yelled. Drop the weapon. The woods went still. Too still. Minutes passed. Backup arrived in a rush of sirens and shouted commands. They swept the woods, weapons drawn. They found nothing. No pike. No gun. Just deeper in the trees, a shallow pit, hastily covered with leaves. Inside, wrapped in plastic, was another body. By nightfall, Millstone was no longer pretending this was an isolated tragedy. Rumors spread faster than facts. People locked their doors. Parents called their kids home early. The mall, once ignored, became a symbol of rot. Mara sat alone in her office, the overhead light humming. The pit victim had been identified, a woman named Carla Mendez, missing for 4 years. Her family had moved away, convinced she'd left town willingly. Mara stared at the wall. How many more? A knock sounded. Luke stepped in, Archer at his side. They found something else, Luke said. Mara looked up. At the mall. Luke nodded. Another panel. Another cavity. Empty this time. But there were scratch marks inside. From what? Fingernails. Mara closed her eyes. Jesus. Luke hesitated. There's more. Evan Pike wasn't working alone. Mara opened her eyes slowly. Who? Luke swallowed. Security logs show someone else on patrol most nights. Someone who signed off on Pike's reports. Mara felt her chest tighten. Who, Luke? Luke met her gaze, eyes heavy. Deputy Frank Doyle. The name landed like a blow. Frank Doyle had trained Mara when she was a rookie. He had taught her how to read a room, how to survive this town without letting it hollow her out. He wouldn't, she whispered. Luke shook his head slightly. I want to believe that. But the evidence. Mara stood abruptly, chair scraping. Where is he? At home. On administrative leave, Luke said. Sheriff wants to bring him in tomorrow. Mara's voice broke. I should be the one to talk to him. Luke nodded. I know. As he turned to leave, Archer paused at the door, looking back at Mara. His eyes were steady, solemn, as if reminding her that the truth, once scented, could not be ignored. Outside, the mall lights flickered again. Somewhere in the woods, Evan Pike moved through the dark, wounded but alive, carrying with him the knowledge that the walls he had built were finally crumbling. And beneath Millstone Mall, behind layers of concrete and neglect, the things that had been kept hidden were not finished speaking. Morning arrived without ceremony. No sirens. No breaking news. Just a low fog sliding off the fields and into Millstone like a held breath finally released. Mara Ellison stood on her porch with a mug gone cold in her hands, watching the road. She had slept for 2 hours, maybe less. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw fingernail scratches on concrete. Deputy Frank Doyle had taught her how to spot those once. Look for what doesn't belong, he'd said, years ago, tapping the wall of a basement they were clearing. People hide things in places they think won't be questioned. Question everything. Now his words felt like a trap closing. Her phone rang at 6:42 a.m. We're bringing him in, Sheriff Harlan said. Doyle. He agreed to come voluntarily. Mara exhaled. Where? Interview room 2. I'm coming, she said. I know. The sheriff's office was quiet in the way hospitals were quiet before something went wrong. Frank Doyle sat alone at the metal table, hands folded, posture straight. His hair had thinned since Mara last really looked at him, his face lined deeper, but his eyes were the same, sharp, assessing, calm. Mara, he said when she entered. His voice held a trace of relief. Good. I was hoping it'd be you. She closed the door behind her. Frank. They sat across from each other. For a moment, neither spoke. The hum of the fluorescent lights filled the space between them. They're saying some things, Frank said finally. About Evan Pike. Yes, Mara replied. And about me. Yes. Frank sighed, rubbed his palms together. I figured this would happen. Mara leaned forward. Then help me understand. He nodded slowly. Evan was useful. He knew them all. He knew who came and went. When things started going missing, tools, equipment, I asked him to keep an eye out. Off the books. Off the books, Mara repeated. Frank's jaw tightened. I didn't know what he was doing. Didn't you? She asked softly. He met her gaze. For a second, the mask slipped. I knew he was strange. I knew he watched people. But this... He shook his head. No. Mara slid a photograph across the table. The false panel. The hidden cavity. You signed off on his patrol logs. You vouched for him. I trusted him, Frank said. Just like you trusted me. The words cut deeper than an accusation. Ellie Carver's mother trusted me, Mara said. Carla Mendez trusted the police when she filed a report. Frank's shoulders sagged. I made mistakes. People died, Mara said. Silence stretched. Frank looked older suddenly. I didn't know how to stop it once I suspected, he said quietly. And then it was easier to look away. Mara felt something fracture inside her. Not surprise. Not anger. Something quieter. Grief. Where is he, Frank? She asked. Frank hesitated. Too long. Mara stood. Frank. He has a place, Frank said finally. Out past the quarry. Old storm shelter. He talked about it once. Said it was peaceful. Mara turned and walked out before she said something she couldn't take back. They found the shelter by noon. A concrete hatch half hidden by brush, rusted hinges screaming when they forced it open. The air inside was damp and cold. Archer went first, descending the steps without hesitation. The shelter was larger than expected. Generator. Cots. Food supplies. Maps pinned to the wall. Millstone and the surrounding counties marked with circles and dates. He planned, Luke said softly. They moved deeper. A figure sat against the far wall, slumped. Evan Pike. Pale. Blood seeping through a bandage at his side. Archer stopped several feet away and sat. Pike looked up, eyes glassy but lucid. He smiled faintly. The dog, he murmured. Knew you'd bring him. Mara stepped forward, weapon lowered but ready. It's over, Evan. He laughed weakly. It was over a long time ago. Why? Luke asked. Why them? Pike's gaze drifted. They were already gone. No one was looking. I just kept them. Mara felt sick. You murdered them. No, Pike said. I preserved them. Luke swore under his breath. Pike's eyes returned to Mara. Frank knew. Mara's voice was steady. He knew enough. Pike smiled again, then coughed, red staining his lips. He didn't stop me. No, Mara said. But he will answer. Pike slumped further, breath rattling. Good. He looked at Archer one last time. You wouldn't leave, he whispered. Then his eyes closed. The paramedics pronounced him dead minutes later. Frank Doyle was arrested that evening. The town watched as the man they had trusted was led out in cuffs. There were no shouts, no protests, just a heavy, collective silence. The mall was closed indefinitely. Crews came in to tear down walls, to open every hidden space. They found 3 more cavities. No more bodies. Just belongings. Proof. Ellie Carver was laid to rest on a windy afternoon. Mara stood at the back, hat in hand. Ellie's mother did not look at her. Mara did not blame her. Luke stood beside her, Archer at his heel. Will it ever feel finished? Luke asked quietly. Mara watched the coffin lower. No. But it will feel quieter. Weeks passed. The story moved on, replaced by other horrors in other places. Millstone returned to its routines, altered but intact. One evening, Mara drove past the mall. The lights were off now, the sign dark. She parked and got out, standing in the empty lot. The air was clean. The walls, stripped and bare, looked almost ordinary. She thought of the dog sitting in the corridor, refusing to leave. Of what it meant to stay when others walked past. Behind her, Archer padded closer, silent. Luke waited by the cruiser, giving her space. "Thank you," she whispered to the empty building. To the dog. To the truth that had insisted on being found. The wind moved through the pines. Somewhere, a door creaked shut. And for the first time since the night the closet was opened, the silence did not feel like a warning. It felt like rest.